Hey everyone, quick piece of shameless promotion. If you're listening to Meinl Radio on Apple Podcasts and you enjoy what you're hearing, please leave a rating and a review. We're already happy that you're listening to the podcast, but we'd be even happier if you showed us that little bit of extra love that helps oh so much. Thank you. Today our guest is Meinl Cymbals artist Luke Holland. If you're not familiar with Luke, the really quick synopsis is that he started uploading videos of himself playing along to songs by his favorite bands back when he was in high school on a relatively fledgling YouTube. From those humble beginnings, Luke has thus far led a pretty extraordinary career. He's done what not many other drummers have done, and that's bridging the gap between being a social content creator and an actual working drummer who does session work, touring, and many other kinds of random one-offs. Luke can pass back and forth between both worlds without seeming clumsy or better suited to one or the other. He's definitely equally adept at both. And did I mention that Luke can play? The guy has some serious chops. The cool thing is that he still sits down to play and practice and learn every single day. This work ethic is the very reason why he's accomplished so much in such a short amount of time. I was supposed to interview Luke during the 2020 NAMM show in Anaheim, but coming down with type A flu kept that from happening. So here we are a couple months later, chatting by phone. On to the podcast. So I'd like to welcome everybody into the Meinl Radio Podcast. Today we've got Luke Holland with us. Luke's been with us for quite some time now. He's a hell of a team player and a good pal. So Luke, hello.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just doing this here from my office. I mean, we were supposed to do this at the NAMM show, but then I got legitimate type A flu.
Ooh. Sure
so
wasn't type
sorry
C.
about that.
Type COVID.
Yeah. No, it definitely was not. I even got tested and it was legit type A. So, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, no worries. I just felt bad I had to bail on our podcast then.
It's all good, dude. Here we are now.
Cool. Yeah. So, man, I'm just going to launch right into it with some questions for you. So tell us about the song Kitana and its video, which just dropped. What was the impetus for it, and what's been the reception you've received from fans and from non-fans?
It's been really interesting, man. I've got the exact response that I kind of anticipated, to be totally honest. I knew that my metal fans from my past would more than likely dislike it. I also knew that some of them would find the beauty in, some of the intricacies that are going on. But really, it's been almost entirely positive. And I kind of wrote this started in May of 2019 with my friend Charles Callahan Masabo, his name is. We met. I did a drum session for Telly Smith, who was the singer of The Word Alive, the band I was in for about 5 years. He's just doing a solo little thing, and he called me and said, "Yo, can you do some drums for this song?" Go in. Charles is the producer. Me and Charles just ended up clicking really well, and I was going through some interesting times myself, so we ended up just like, "Hey, man, like, you should come over. Let's try writing something." And day one, we wrote Kitana, like, literally just met each other, like, actually hung out just one-on-one, and that's the first song that just kind of happened. And we just sort of stumbled upon this sound. It was a really nice, organic way that it happened, too. It was just so organic and genuine, and we weren't trying to even write anything to release, if that makes sense. So we used a 10-inch snare. We used 2 tiny little stacks that I made from 4 different Meinl cymbals, and just no crash cymbals, just no ride. It was really interesting. And we ended up writing a full EP, which I'm going to release shortly. And yeah, man, I'm really excited about the way that it's turning out. And as for the video itself, that was, well, I don't know how much I can say because I kind of want to use some of these ideas for future stuff, but that was not at all what I intended to do. My idea A had to be pushed further, basically. So I knew some dancers that I'd worked with in the past, and I knew that I wanted to have like an Asian theme with my EP because I'm obsessed with Asian culture, and I've always loved things from anime to Asian video games, and even just going to the continent itself is like one of my favorite places on planet Earth. So yeah, just kind of threw that video together and did it at YouTube Space, and my buddy Sam Lebo, who filmed the video and edited it, he does video for Odessa and some other really big acts. And yeah, man, it turned out cool. I think it's something that hasn't really been done too much, if at all. Just a drummer by himself releasing an EP with music videos and things like that. So just trying to do something new.
Yeah, it's super cool with the music, actually. You made it literally sound like your acoustic drumming literally sounded like a drum machine or an electronic kit, I should say. It was really neat how you made it do that kind of a thing. And I know it's not just in the actual instruments you play, but I know it's in your touch also. Is that something you've actually consciously kind of worked towards doing, is being able to have that sonic effect when you want it?
Totally, because especially coming from the metal world where I guess the thing that set me apart back in the day from the metal world was dynamics, because most of those dudes are hitting hard, fast all the time. And I was throwing in, from some of my aspiring drummers that I was looking for at the time, I was noticing a lot of the ghost note use, and I already had a lot of that experience from my drumline days. So learning how to play not always super hard, and even sonically when it comes to the recording, like using that 10-inch snare and using my biggest stack, I think, is 10/12, and just keeping everything very, very tight and crisp, and also layering samples, like 808s and claps and snaps and things like that. Just really gave it kind of the hip hop effect that we were going for.
Yeah, dude, you totally succeeded. You actually said a couple of things that sparked another couple of questions in my brain. So when I asked you about what the reception had been like with fans and non-fans, the only fans of yours that you alluded to at all were the metal fans. So, and you said it was pretty predictable. There were some of them that just hated it and some that were cool and went on the journey with you. Are the metal fans from your past, are they pretty much the most vocal on all of your socials?
I think they're the most abrasively vocal. And I love my metal fans, and I love my background, and I love where I came from. I started playing drums because I saw Joey Jordison doing a drum solo upside down, and I was like, what is going on? And I'll always have that spot in my heart for metal, but there's a reason I quit the band that I was in. My heart just wasn't there, dude. I couldn't listen to the music anymore. I couldn't perform the music every single night anymore. It just felt very mundane. I felt very bored. And I think that a lot of my initial fan base came from that, definitely. And I think a lot of them just want to see me stay in that lane and keep doing that lane. But as you know, Chris, I like lots and lots of different lanes. I have very hard time sticking to one. So, man, it's just about me growing constantly. Like, just got off tour with Rufus Du Sol, who's like an electronic act, and doing this hip hop kind of electronic album now. And then also, me and Jason Richardson are working on a new album. So it's like there's still the metal stuff there. I just can't be stuck to one thing. So.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Well, you said something else, too, that made me want to ask you another question that I was going to ask you later, but I'll ask you now. So you were talking about your fascination with Asian culture, and I guess that kind of jumps in as an answer for what I was going to ask, and that's what's your fascination with K-pop all about? Despite being one of the biggest selling genres, there's going to be some folks listening to this podcast who have no idea what I'm talking about. But I've heard you talking about your interest in working within that genre for a few years now. I know it's been one of those things that you've thought might be fun to do. So does that just come from your general love for Asian culture?
Yes, but also, admittedly, when I first was introduced to K-pop, being, Caucasian from America, growing up the time I did, I'm like very confused about why it was so big. So it took me, and I consider myself a pretty open-minded person. It took me a little bit of opening my mind. And what really opened my mind and what really sold it was when I saw there's a group, they're the biggest group in the world, they're called BTS. They have a music video for a song called Fake Love. And when I saw that video, it just all clicked. I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. This is insane. It's like the biggest movement in music right now. It's the biggest movement. They have the most dedicated and diehard fans. They set record after record after record, and they have their country, South Korea, fully backing them, like, as much as they possibly could back them. They're receiving that, and because of all their very, very intelligent moves that they've made, they've become the biggest act in the world. So I think that once I saw that video, I just actually fell in love with that song. I remember just listening to that song over and over, and I was like, man, I know that my metal fans and my core following is going to be so confused if I post a BTS drum cover. They're going to be like, what is this? But I did it anyways, and little did I know that would explode into this whole new market. Basically, BTS fans started to know who I was too. And I kind of that momentum was very exciting for me, and I dove deeper and deeper into their music, and then basically the female equivalent, who is Blackpink, I dove into their music, and then I ended up doing collaborations with choreographers that do stuff for them, and then one of those choreographers is in my Kitana video. It's just all kind of crossed, it's really, really interesting how it's all come together in the last couple of years, but it is truly fascinating. Like, they have the most dedicated fans on planet Earth. I always tell people it's like if the Beatles were Asian and they had social media. That's basically like what it is in their prime.
It'd be on that kind of a level.
Yep.
And just because I don't think you ever really fully explained the acronym, but you did mention South Korea, so obviously, for those that don't know, it just stands for Korean pop, correct?
Yep.
There you go. Well, cool. I mean, I appreciate you telling me all that. It makes a lot of sense now, but where did your first bit of fascination with Asian culture come from?
Probably video games, if I'm being honest. I think, actually, a really interesting story, interesting for me. I did a solo tour. Actually, it was, I believe it was a Meinl tour in China in 2018, October of 2018. And I had one tour guide, basically tour manager, with me, and it was just me and him for 3.5 weeks. And we took the bullet train to each show. And really, I got to see parts of China that I straight up would not be surprised have never seen a Caucasian person in real life. Like, it was...
No kidding?
Yeah, dude. It was wild. Like, people would be having wagons with they'd be carrying people in the back of the wagon, and they'd be walking down the street, and they would drop the wagon and just stare at me. Like, the entire street. Anywhere I went, everybody would just stare. And it was such an interesting, crazy feeling. And things like, man, China's a very particular country. They were photoshopping my tattoos off of billboard advertisements, and very interesting place. But anyways, going off the rails there. Basically, my tour manager starts saying, oh, we have like the biggest brass structure in the world here, and we'd love to show it to you. I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And we pull up to this thing, and it's a gigantic brass structure, man-made, of a Chinese general named Guan Yu. And I was like, oh my God, is that Guan Yu? And everybody just turned around and looked at me like so confused that I knew who that was. They're like, how do you know Guan Yu? And I was like, well, I knew all the history, and I didn't really understand that this history was completely accurate of all their generals because of these games that I would play. So they were
Really?
Yeah, dude. A game called Dynasty Warriors, which is just like a hack and slash, completely historically accurate game. So we went to this museum that was built underneath the statue, and they had all of the history displayed, dude. It was so cool. It's one of my favorite tour memories ever. But I would probably say my fascination started there, and like the Miyazaki films, like Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, and old animes like that, Akira, all the way to the new stuff. And yeah, man, I'm super nerd. Like half of my, not a lot of people know this, but half of my tattoo sleeve on my left arm is from a video game called Final Fantasy, which is a Japanese company, Square Enix. So, yeah,
Wow, that's totally cool.
Nerd.
No, it's dude. Nerds are my favorite people. It's good to be a nerd about something. So I'm curious, what made you? Because I don't even think I've ever asked you this. Oddly enough, what made you want to film your very first video and upload it to YouTube? What was your immediate goal at that moment when you did that?
I had one goal only, and that had nothing to do with views or likes or anything. I didn't care about any of that. The singer, I was in this band called Oceans Will Part. It was like my first local band, basically. He told me, hey man, like I've seen drummers doing drum covers on YouTube. You should cover one of our songs and upload it. Try to get the name out about our band. And I was like, nah, like that doesn't sound, I don't want to do that. So what that did is it piqued my curiosity. I started looking up YouTube drum covers, and I was really listening to August Burns Red, Texas in July, bands like that at the time. So I was like, oh, I'm curious. So I'd look up Mac Reiner covers, Adam Gray covers, and the comments on their videos were like, just as good as Matt, if not better, and all these like super positive things. But me and my 16-year-old, kind of my pride and me really wanting to get my name out there, I was like, oh my God, I can do way better. So yeah, I hit up my bass player's younger brother. It's like a computer whiz, and he filmed my first video. He's standing on a stool in the corner of his mom's living room. I'm at his house, and no mics, broken cymbals. This is before Meinl, obviously. And yeah, we uploaded it. I seriously recorded that just to send, or just to put it out there. I didn't send it to the drummers, but I just wanted to prove that I could play it more accurately. Just that kind of arrogant 16-year-oldness. So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I'm totally curious now. So when you uploaded it and it got out there, did it start to take off relatively quickly, or was it a slow burn?
I can't remember. I feel like there was a moment where I woke up and I was like, I kind of forgot that I uploaded it. You know what I'm saying? And I checked it, and I remember it being at like 4,000 or 5,000 views or something, and I was like, wait, what? I thought somebody was like playing a prank on me or something, and then it just kept climbing. So then that's kind of where I got probably the addiction started, honestly, of like social media and seeing the climb in numbers and subscribers and this and that. So I started creating more videos, and yeah, now almost 11 years later. It's crazy.
Well, wait, let's back up, because the reason I ask, what I really want to know is, so you're in high school when you did this. Did this like score you brownie points with people in your grade?
It was, at first, I was very like, in high school, I had my close group of friends. We were always together, and I wasn't really like at school being like, yo, check me out ever. I was very.
Well, I don't mean you were telling people. I mean like, were people just like, whoa, I saw this video of you, and dude, it came through my feed, and
see, I feel like social media wasn't quite at that point yet. So
True.
Like you had to kind of share it with people, and then there wasn't really huge viral videos yet. If they were like what are some, I don't know, those like classic meme viral videos from way back in the day, comedy stuff, But my senior year, I was 17 when I graduated, is when stuff really started to take off. And I do remember that last semester word spread around my school, and I had a pretty big school. Like, I think we had 2,500 kids at the school. So it was a pretty big high school. And, yeah, just silly things like voted most likely to succeed and, like, things like that. Like, people started getting hyped on it. And there's actually a video somewhere on YouTube. They surprised me. We had this big, like, end-of-year school assembly thing. And they brought out a drum set. And, you know, there's probably, like, 2,000 people in this room. And I had to, like, defend the seniors' honor for talent or something ridiculous. So I just, like, did an impromptu drum solo, and people lost it. So I think, like, senior year is when it really started, people started to notice. But before that, definitely not. I was, like, a quiet scene kid, hung out with his friends.
Yeah. Oh, but that's kind of fun that it opened up some social situations for you your senior year. That's always a fun time.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
So you moved to LA, what, like 2 years ago? Is that about right?
Yeah, actually almost exactly 2 years ago.
Okay. Wow, I can't believe I actually remember that. So 2 years ago. Now, when you moved there, did you have much of a concrete plan when you moved there? And what's the move actually done for you?
I didn't necessarily have a concrete plan. I knew that I couldn't stay in Arizona anymore. I knew that. You know, I bought a house there when I was 22. And I was with a girl. We lived together for like 3.5 years, a long time. Pretty like settling down situation started happening. And I'm so glad my current roommate, his name is Elmo Lovano. He owns a company called Jam Card. He calls me November of 2017 and says, dude, what are you doing in Arizona? You need to come live here. I can hook you up with these people. This is where you need to be. So he eventually convinced me, and I think the final convincing factor was that I get to live in this gigantic mansion with him and one other person and pay a very, very low amount of money per month. And I honestly got very lucky, and it was people that I'd met and people that I had treated with kindness and respect, and that always kind of turns around in the end to help you. You know, it's treating people right is so important. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so I didn't really have a plan. I just knew that I needed to be out here, and I'm so glad that I came out here, because this is like the way that getting hired for certain situations, certain gigs, all that stuff. If you're not there, they're not going to be like, oh, you live in Arizona? Okay, we'll book you a flight, and we'll book your travel costs and your hotel and all this stuff. Immediately, those costs start going up for whoever's hiring you. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, okay, well, we have this guy who's a 15-minute drive away, and he can do the job just fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and,
totally.
Yeah, and a lot of young drummers don't understand that, and I think that it took me a little bit to understand that as well. So yeah, definitely glad I'm here, and you know, times are really strange right now, but yeah.
But in terms of what the move itself has done for you, obviously it's put you in the right place for any opportunity that comes up, but has there been anything tangible you can think of, like, man, if I had not been here, this gig would not have happened. If I had not been here, this would not have happened. Or is it pretty much everything that's happened to you since you moved there would not have happened?
Pretty much,
if you hadn't moved
pretty
there?
much every single thing, to be honest. And some of those things are really big, like the Jeremy Renner thing, the guy from the Avengers. And I did like 3 Jeep commercials with him, and we did. I'm the drummer in his like debut music video, right? Like that was this happens in a couple days. Learn this song, or learn these songs, and we'll see you out in the middle of the desert in California in a couple days. You know, like you had to have been there. Also, that would have never happened if I hadn't moved into the mansion, and the other roommate besides Elmo, his name is Eric Zane, wrote all the music for Jeremy Renner. So a lot of it, you hear this all the time. I used to roll my eyes when I heard it, but it's all about who you know is such a true statement. And again, if you're difficult to work with, or you have a bad reputation for being disrespectful or not showing up on time or not pulling off the gig correctly, like that travels really fast and you won't get gigs. Just a little heads up for any aspiring drummers that might be listening. Personality
heads up for any,
everything.
Heads up for any assholes out there. Get your shit together or you're not going to get hired.
Fact.
Yeah, dude, totally. I mean, that's like the age-old lesson that everybody either figures it out just kind of innately or they learn it the hard way. So let's see. I'm going to jump around a little bit because like some of the stuff you've been talking about has made me think of this or that. But I do have to ask this about LA. So when you got out there, I assume, I mean, I know you did start meeting some dudes in the drumming community like Aaron Spears, who's the perpetual nice guy. But what was the reaction of the LA drum community when you moved out there? Because when you moved out there, it wasn't like you moved out as a complete unknown, at least to the LA drum community, because you had already built up your social following at that point. So at that point, you'd basically toured with the word alive, which to a lot of the dudes in the LA drumming community probably didn't mean much because a lot of those guys don't know about the metalcore scene. So what they really knew about you was, oh, here's this guy who's been on social media a bunch. So did they have a, come on, let's see what you're all about attitude? Or was everybody generally pretty cool, or were some people not cool?
It took a little bit of, with certain people, it took a little bit of proving myself, definitely. Like, you know, in my head, and you nailed it perfectly. Like, I came from a world that they're like, they scratch their head, huh? Who's the word alive? Like, metal? Huh, that's, what is that, like, Slipknot? You know what I'm saying? Like, they put all of that in the same category. They don't really understand. So, yeah, it definitely, it took some proving. And like I was going to say, in my head, I'd been on tour. I toured with this electronic pop group day out of high school called the Green Children. So when I was 17, I started touring immediately. And I'm like, guys, I didn't say it, of course, but I'm thinking, I've been doing this for close to a decade now. I'm not a noob, but to them, some of them, they would be like, oh, that's cool, man. Oh, you have like 100 million views on YouTube. Like, that's cool. It doesn't really mean much to certain people. And in a way, dude, I think that's awesome. I loved that because that made me focus on different things for a while. And just being well-rounded in general. It made me focus on my playing a lot. And actually, I just had, 2 days ago, practicing a little bit of social distancing. Sarcasm there, but my buddy, his name is Ray Marshall. He played drums for Charlie Puth for 2 years, and he now he's playing for Trippie Redd, who's like a big trap artist right now. He came over and we just jammed for like 7 hours. And where was I going with that? I don't remember where I was going with that. Oh yeah, basically like those jam sessions with these drummers, made me so much better. Before I'm playing songs with bands, and I'm playing by myself. Playing with other drummers, exchanging ideas off of each other. The drummer I've jammed with the most frequent since moving out here is Matt Garska, fellow Meinl artist. And he has taught me a lot of really cool ideas, and it's been really fun, man. I'm definitely super glad I moved here. It's been great.
No, of course, man. Well, so the dirt that I'm trying to dig up is, and it's encouraging to hear that people were pretty cool, but did you have the drummers that never really could get a handle on social media themselves, and yet they had maybe had a career so far just playing with artists and touring?
Oh yeah.
Because, okay, so here's what I'm saying. So this is what I've encountered in my world. There's a group of drummers that have established themselves in their career. I mean, they have nothing to complain about. They literally are doing great. They're making good money. They've got all those gigs that everybody wants. But for some reason that I cannot wrap my head around, these guys are envious, jealous even. They try not to act it, but you can tell they are. Of the guys that have a really good handle on social media and have a good following there. And so they really are sort of... I don't know what the right word is, maybe bitter. They're kind of bitter against these people. And I'm thinking, dude, what are you upset about? You're doing great. You've got a great career.
Dude, I can instantly nail this to those drummers who are on social media who are getting good views and have a good amount of followers or whatever it is. They are getting instant, immediate gratification in a public spotlight, whereas those guys are playing for established artists, and all the people who are going to those shows don't really care 8 times out of 10 who the band is. They're going for the singer or whoever the main act is, right? So they might be making good money and like very, very satisfied with their job, but there's also that part that isn't satisfied where they see these young kids on social media getting 100,000 views on a video or whatever it might be and getting all this attention, and they're like, well, why don't, this is kind of the ego that comes into play with every single person has an ego, right? Is, well, why am I not getting that gratification? Why am I not getting those words of affirmation or like attention in the drumming community? I'm really good.
Yeah.
I can do this. I can do that. I can do that easily. That's kind of that mentality. And I don't know where I sit in all that because I am from social media, but I also do real life stuff as well. So I feel like I'm like a healthy blend of the two. I don't know, but I just see jealousy a lot, especially just, in my career, I've seen it a lot, and it's a very nasty thing.
Yeah, it's so strange with these guys that are on these big gigs, and you're right, they're back there behind the artist, and nobody cares who the drummer is. Well, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you are putting food on the table, and I'm not talking like TV dinners. You're putting killer ribeyes on the table that you cooked on your $800 green egg grill that's on your awesome back porch out in whichever blissful suburb outside of LA that you live in. And so like, what in the world are you upset about? But you're right, dude. I mean, it's the ego aspect that comes into play. And it's so strange how you can have all these great blessings from a really fruitful career, yet these table scraps, you're like literally scrounging for those scraps. And it's weird. It
is weird, dude. Also, social media is like, it's kind of the Wild West still, dude. It's still so new, and it's still so untapped, and like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I totally get it. And I did an interview. I was a teacher at Thomas Lang's drum camp last summer, and it was me, him, Simon Phillips from Toto. Who else did it? John Tempesta did it. Actually, I think it was us 4. And then afterwards, it was amazing. Such a great time. The camp was awesome. Afterwards, we go to Drum Channel, which is located at DW Drums, and we do an interview, us 4, with Terry Bozzio. And they literally had us sitting on accident from youngest to oldest. Obviously, I'm the youngest one there, and Terry Bozzio is the oldest. And there was an audience there, and people got to ask questions, and we did this cool Q&A or whatever. And me and Terry actually got in it wasn't an argument, but I basically had to single-handedly defend my generation against the older generation. Like Terry, I mean, Terry's a legend, Terry's done so many great things, but he was just so blatantly kind of disrespecting the hard work and everything that goes into it, and I totally understand and see his point of view. But yeah, it was really interesting, man. It was like I don't know, not like a pinch me moment, because it didn't feel like that. I don't really know how to describe it.
It was a little bit of an out-of-body experience where you're thinking, really? Like, I'm really having this conversation right now in front of all these people with all these legends, and that had to be weird.
And just with him, of all people, it was just like, dude, I respect you a lot, and you've done such great things, but, like, I feel like well, I don't really want to say too much, because I do respect the dude. But anyways.
Well, no, of course. Yeah. I'll have to go back and listen to that. I didn't watch it. I did not see that.
I don't know if it's out. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I just remember the actual real life moment of it. And
yeah, well, I mean, whether or not he meant any harm, and I assume he did not, because I've met him before, and he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is.
I mean, it's just a difference in experience, and that informs your sort of take on the situation and how you perceive that some things should be or shouldn't be. So, yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think that what matters is that the audience got to hear his perspective and got to hear yours, and then they could make up their own mind.
Totally. And he's from when music royalties were a big deal. And that's old money. That's like old money. There's real money there with music. Where me, total opposite. You don't make shit from royalties these days, right? So
yeah,
it was like, well, dude, we gotta figure this out for ourselves. Somehow we gotta make it work. But yeah, if anybody's curious about that, you might be able to Google or like YouTube search it and find it somewhere. It's pretty cool. And then Thomas Lang did a really good job at kind of mediating the whole conversation like throughout. But yeah, dude, it's very easy to tip one way of the scale, the other way of the scale, but I just try to stay right in the middle and just be grateful for what I have and keep working on what I have and not forgetting a lot of people my age or younger get so wrapped up in views and subscribers and likes, not forgetting that at the end of the day it comes down to the instrument. And yeah, people are very quick to forget that. So
yeah, sure, I bet. So on another note, I'm curious, I don't even know that there is such a thing, but if there is, what does a slightly typical workday look like for you?
There is not such a thing. If I'm being honest, it's all over the place, dude. Every single day is different. If I ever go a day without practicing or without, I guess you could call it plotting or scheming or just thinking, really, I do my best thinking in the shower, 100%. I swear, every time I take a shower, I go in there, I'm like, oh my God, I come out. And I have this crazy idea. I'm like, all right, let's go. Pull the trigger on it. But yeah, it just really requires a lot of thinking and a lot of trying to think outside the box, but not too outside the box where it doesn't really matter to your audience or expanding your audience. And that's always my goal, is I'm trying to make my audience bigger and bigger. I don't want to cater to the same audience over and over for the rest of my life. That just sounds really boring, and that's just not me. And if that's what you want to do, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so there isn't really a typical work day. I did that Rufus Du Sol tour. I did 3 weeks in Australia with them, and they're like one of Australia's biggest bands out there. So, and they were just nominated for a couple Grammys and this year. And they're truly talented musicians, and like it was such a pleasure playing with them, man. It was so cool. But that was very different. I've never toured with, one, an act that big, two, an electronic act where I'm playing just as much electronics as I am acoustics. So that was a really cool learning experience. And you get home from that tour and you're like, all right, well, their drummer's coming back, so what's next? So then it's back to the drawing board, and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It doesn't get boring, it sounds like, that's for sure.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I love. If I was in a band, dude, and again, absolutely nothing wrong with being in a band. I do whatever you want. My heart just, I can't do the same thing. I did it with The Word Alive, and I love those dudes, and I loved my time with them. But it just gets boring, and I need some stimulation, I guess.
Well, I think that answers my next question. So my next question was going to be, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy being home and filming content and doing session work, or random things like the Jeremy Renner work that combined sort of pseudo-session work along with video? Or do you enjoy like high-profile touring? I don't mean eating shit touring where you're in a van and you're having to stop and scrounge for food at a club or whatever, but a nice tour where you're sort of being taken care of. Which one do you enjoy more?
I think It's so funny you say that because the order you just said it in is like perfect. I go do a high profile tour. You know, I come home, I do these weird, not weird, but like, you know, kind of not typical, the Jeremy Renner thing, or like commercials for Gillette, or like God knows what. It's always something new. Love that. And then being like, okay, now it's time for me to create for me. And then go back on a high profile tour. You know, it's like that's exactly how I want things to go. And then eventually, like my goal honestly is I would love to be able to have my music, my project that I'm doing, kind of take off, and then I can have big features on all of my tracks. That's my current goal right now, especially with all the chaos in the world happening. It's like, okay, well, I have nothing but time right now. Let's make the best of it.
So wait, you said you'd like to have, it would be a goal to have big features with all of your tracks? Is that the way you put it?
Yeah, so basically, okay, let's talk dream scenario, right? This is
Sure.
way beyond where I'm at right now, but this is it's a goal. Is say I release an EP or a full length, and it's like featuring Travis Scott, featuring The Weeknd, featuring Ray Shremmerd, and then you can have some singers on there. The beauty is that it's rhythm and synth oriented. So like you can go either way. You can go, okay, we want this singer, you know, The Weeknd, he's obviously an incredible singer, but he also kind of raps a little bit with his voice. So like it's completely open and it's free, and I like that idea is so fascinating to me, and that's just kind of where my mind is geared at right now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll laugh at this conversation.
In that dream scenario, for the people out there that may not be able to envision how this works, bluntly putting it, how do you make money off that?
So bluntly putting it, okay. So say I have an EP. My name is big enough at this point, which currently it is not. Let me clarify. But let's say, dream scenario, people know that, okay, yo, if you get on Luke's album, it's going to do good things for your name, right? And then vice versa, because it makes me look like a certain entity, and we can kind of piggyback off of each other, and everybody grows, everybody gets bigger. You would get money off of royalties. Now, if you're getting royalties on, say you're The Weeknd, I mean, he has songs just on Spotify alone, that's not even Apple Music, that are in the 1.2 billion streams for one track. That's a lot of money. And that's not including his music videos, the streams on that. That's not including, obviously, he's probably getting 1.5 to 2 mil a show just to perform.
Let's just say, given the times, let's just say shows are out of the question for the moment.
Okay.
So you're saying basically monetization through the video streams, and then the royalties off of the streaming on Spotify and Apple Music.
That is a method of income, but really, Chris, what I'm thinking of, that stuff is great, but what I'm thinking and what makes me get excited is, okay, I get a song with The Weeknd, everything else goes up from there. Everything. Merch sales, people coming to your shows, likes, all of that stuff, which in turn, say I go from, I think I have like 360,000 followers or something on Instagram right now. Say my name blows up, my project blows up, I'm up at 2 million followers, right? Everything right there, your value increases dramatically all across the board. And then once it does that, it never goes down unless you really mess up. And that's kind of the goal, I think.
Makes total sense. And really, I understand what you're saying. I really want to spell it out for the people that may not have understood.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, thanks for putting that out there for them. Because sometimes this stuff can seem a little nebulous to people. I mean, the old ways of doing things where you'd stop by Target or Walmart and pick up a CD, even though that's like crazy old school, there's still a lot of people that would be listening that it might be hard to wrap your head around how you actually make any money beyond that.
No, totally. That was a great question because, I mean, even people in my position, we're trying to figure out the best way to make money from it too. So It's definitely a great question.
Well, you've talked about the word Alive a little bit. So for those that don't know, they were a metalcore band, and you were in the band, I think it was like 2012 to 2016 or something.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 5 years. Like I think March to December of those years that you said. So it was like 4 years and 9 months or whatever. So
Gotcha. Well, dude, you guys worked really hard. At least that's the way it seemed to me. You were always in the cycle of album, tour, and they weren't small potatoes tours. You guys would get on the Vans Warped Tour. You would be touring on all the different continents, and when you would play around, it would seem like it was probably House of Blues kind of venues, at least in terms of how many people would hold. Or you'd play some smaller stuff, but the bottom line is that you did a lot of work with those guys. Is there anything about that experience that you miss?
That's a good question. There are certain things that I miss for sure. Actually, it's so funny you say that. I had a weird Word Alive show dream last night that I got on stage. And so Matt Horn is my old drum tech. He teched me for a couple years while I was in the band. And once I left, I told him I was leaving. They were looking for drummers. I was like, guys, what are you doing? Get Matt Horn. So they got Matt Horn. I'm super happy for him. He's killing it. But in this dream, they wanted me to play a show. I don't know why. I'm up there on stage playing a show for them. And little do they tell me, it's all new material. And I didn't know a single track. So I just go up on stage, and it was just a total shit show, basically. Anyways,
wow, those are called gig mares.
Oh my gosh, dude, I have gig mares all the time. All the time. But is there anything that I miss in particular? I mean, man, I had so many good times with them. A lot of really, really bad times too. But that's life, especially when you are together like that for almost 5 years. It's a long time. Anything in particular? It's kind of hard to answer right now, but
I mean, it's okay if there's nothing. If you're like, no, dude, I did it. That's it. I'm done. I'm on to the next thing. I had a great time, but no, I'm not sitting around lamenting the fact that I don't get pizza every night.
I mean, the quality of the touring and stuff was good. It wasn't incredible and it wasn't bad. We had bad times for sure, but I just think that I was 18 when they approached me to join, and I was so young and so new and so hungry for all of it that I didn't even notice those things, to be honest. And as I got older and I did bigger things on bigger scales, I was like, oh, I got to see the broad spectrum of everything. And but I would never trade that time for. I'm really glad that I went through everything that I did with them. And I definitely wish them all the best, for sure.
You talked about socials a little bit ago. Well, we talked about it a lot, actually. But you had mentioned people in your age category, when it comes to socials, being very concerned with likes and views and counts and this and that. My question to you is, how much time do you spend a day looking at your socials and checking in on your channels? How much work is it to manage your socials and all the interaction? That can consume you. I mean, dude, I can get on and handle some of Meinl's stuff, and before I know it, I've easily blown 2 hours. Oh yeah. So how do you balance all that with actually putting your phone down and just getting on with doing some other stuff?
I think ironically, one of the things that pulls me away the most from getting obsessive over that is drumming. And I know that's kind of ironic, but I'll wake up almost every day. I'll wake up and be on my phone in my bed for an hour, almost every single day. Just getting emails sorted, getting ideas sorted, talking to the certain people that I need to, keeping things in motion, but also checking in on stuff, posting stories, especially if I have something to promote. So right now I'm promoting Kitana, which is my debut single, and that requires a good amount of promoting, reaching out to press outlets, reaching out to different vocalists that I want on my future stuff. It's a constant thing. So I guess if I was to consciously pull myself away from it, it would be to play drums, it would be to hang out with friends or whoever it might be, and yeah, just like you gotta separate real life from that stuff and not let it absolutely consume you, because if you do, it will. If you do let it, it will consume you. And again, that's kind of why I said earlier, like that kind of ties into me saying that the playing is everything. If you're like a mediocre drummer, but you have great production and all your gear is super nice and fancy, you have the best cymbals, best drums, but the playing is like, it's kind of shoulder shrug, then, you got a lot of work to do. And you could also be the most technically awesome drummer in the entire world, but if you don't know how to market yourself and put yourself out there, you got some work to do. You got things you got to work on. So
yeah. So the balance is key. And do you find yourself really having to consciously make yourself put one down to pick up the other and vice versa? Or is it one of those things you got a pretty good handle on at this point?
I think I got a pretty good handle on it. But sometimes, man, there will be sometimes I'll be on my phone for like 3 hours and I'm like, 3 hours have passed. I'm like, it's usually moments like that. I'm like, nope, gotta go do something, go work out or go play drums or call a friend. Yo, what are you doing? Let's get food, let's get beer, like whatever, detach a little bit.
Totally. So, last question. What's the long-term plan for you looking like these days? And you don't have to give me some professional, like, this is my 2-year business plan. I mean, you literally are like, I don't know, dude, I'll see where it takes me. That's cool, too.
Yeah, I think, I should, but I don't have year or 5-year or 10-year plans written out like most successful people that I know have. They usually have a game plan. I've always been one to just take things as they come and just kind of see what happens and just really work as hard as I can and be as smart as I can about it. And I'm just going to continue to do that and continue to be a good person and as good things come to me, give back with those good things too. I think that's really important as well. And, but yeah, I mean, like right now I am pretty into the idea of transitioning into a solo artist and creating a movement. I'm going to give it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, that's totally fine. We'll see what happens after that. But, just going to keep practicing, keep getting better and keep thinking, keep the brain juices flowing.
Yeah, dude. Luke, thank you so much for being on this podcast, man. We always have good conversations, so this wasn't like particularly hard to do. But yeah, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, my pleasure, man. Always good to talk to you, and looking forward to whatever we come up with next, dude. We're always plotting, always scheming.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Thanks for listening to Meinl Radio. If you liked this episode, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We would appreciate it very much. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.